There we go. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time out of your day for today's session, and welcome to today's info session for elevated leadership. My name is Liz Tang, if you haven't already met me, and I use the she, her pronouns, and I'm the education coordinator for IntegralOrg. I'll be around monitoring the chat and doing any tech support. And without further ado, we'll hop right into it. So we acknowledge that what we call Alberta is the traditional and ancestral territory of many peoples, presently subject to Treaties 4, 6, 7, 8, and 10, namely the Blackfoot Confederacy, the Kainai, Piikani, Siksika, the Cree, Dene, Saulteaux, Nakota Sioux, Stoney Nakoda, and the Tsuut'ina Nation, and the Métis people of Alberta. This includes the Métis settlements in the 6 regions of the Métis Nation of Alberta within the historical Northwest Métis homeland. For me personally, reconciliation is not just about stepping aside and uplifting Indigenous voices, but it's about recognizing the ways in which we can learn from Indigenous ideology and incorporate their teachings into our lives and our work. And I bring this up because while the Indigenous diaspora is very diverse, commonly Indigenous leaders are expert at deeply valuing community and benefiting the whole, and exemplifying collaborative consensus building processes, which I think is very relevant to today's topic. So there's so much value in considering many ways to leadership, and I welcome you all to reflect on these thoughts alongside myself as we go through today's session. And with that, very happy to introduce today's hosts, who themselves are wonderful leaders, as I've experienced firsthand. First, we have Mike Rogan. I'm just going to spotlight him. He is the president and CEO of IntegralOrg, and he's worked in the nonprofit sector for over 25 years and is recognized for his ability to inspire nonprofit organizations to tackle complex issues and create sustainable solutions to organizational and community issues. And our other host today, at a spotlight, Leslie Tamagi, who has more than 25 years experience as CEO of diverse organizations and understands firsthand the complex challenges facing management, staff, and boards in the nonprofit sector. So I wanted to hand it over to our hosts today just to share why they feel today's topic is important to them. So let's start with Leslie first. Why is developing nonprofit leadership important to you?
Thank you, Liz, and thanks everyone for joining us today. I'm so excited about this program, and one of the reasons, probably one of the main reasons I am, is because I had this amazing opportunity to participate in a cohort-based leadership development program myself. This was probably 15 years ago. And the program that we are now offering has some very similar characteristics with the cohort model and kind of an intense learning experience. But what I really valued about my time with my cohort is I have maintained those long-term relationships, and leadership can be really hard, and it can be very lonely, even if you're not at the very top. Who do you talk to about your most, your highs, your lows, what are your struggles? And the group that I was with became those people for me. And so 12 years later, I still reach out to them when I have a challenge or a difficulty or I need help with something, and I know that they will respond. And so we jokingly called it our group therapy, but it really was a game changer for me to be able to participate in a cohort-based leadership development model. So that's why I'm just so thrilled to be part of what we are presenting today.
Oh, yeah. And I guess we'll hand it over to Mike. Why is developing nonprofit leadership important to you?
Well, thank you, Liz, and thank you all for being with us. It's just an honor to spend time with you. I mean, I agree with Leslie that the connections you make and the relationships and the community you form doing this kind of work, you don't think you form anywhere else. For me, it comes down to a couple of things. One is that, I just, over my career, just been just so blessed to engage with stellar leaders in so many different ways. People who are named leaders, people who seem to be leaders, people who don't seem to be, and just really how, there are so many different ways to lead. And some of the folks on the call today that I've had a chance to work with over my career, and just that the idea that I'm just every day amazed at the creativity and the compassion and the technical knowledge and the way of interacting with others that, I learn from every day. So I think that is something that is an ongoing piece. And I also think that, it's hard to lead these days. And I think leadership is quite often about tensions, and tensions aren't a bad thing, but it's how do you How do you balance the need to sort of grow and sustain? And how do you balance, personal life and all those kind of things? And to do that with a group of people, to learn to do that, this is an ongoing piece of work. No one's born a leader. There's people who have traits or characteristics that maybe help in certain situations. And I think we tend to sometimes really put those on a pedestal, and that's not wrong. But for most of what leadership is, it is a pursuit. It really is something that you learn every day. So there's not a day that goes by if I choose to pay attention to who I am and what I'm doing, which isn't every day. I'll tell you, there's a lot of days I don't. But that you do learn something. So to me, to chance to do that intentionally is really, really important. So thank you for being here. I'm looking forward to hopefully spending some time with you over the next 6 or 8 months here as well. And secondly, I now put my IntegralOrg hat on, and just as being CEO of IntegralOrg, why this is important for us. And we are a capacity building organization. Our goal in life, our mission in life, our vision in life, here's on the screen there, is to help charities and nonprofits have the knowledge to thrive, flourish, and achieve their purposes, which is a nice statement, but nonprofits to thrive is a really hard thing. So how to put some resources and some time and some energy and some knowledge in place that we're building the ecosystem for the next generation of leaders, or to enhance those leaders who are already around right now. So this is very much our way of working. It's very much part of our mandate. But even as Liz framed it in her response to the land acknowledgement, that we love to work with people, to come alongside it, to be a community. We're not this, that is our style, is to be with people and to be of people. And I think this is, one of the ultimate ways of doing that. So we're very much looking forward to what this journey will be for us. This is a new piece of work for us. So as we build this up, both Leslie and I have done leadership development throughout our careers, but we'll learn too. This is not like us coming and teaching from the mountaintop. This is us being with folks down in the gullies here, and that's going to be a really good experience for us as well. So one of the things we think about, though, when we think about leadership, is there's a lot of things that we can admire in leadership. There's a lot of different ways of framing what's important to us and what do we think makes a great leader. So one of the things I'd like you to do, and we're going to use a bit of a Slido thing here. Oh, I can do the agenda first. Yeah, there we go. That's what I was waiting for. Okay, we're going to talk about, who this is for, a bit of and it's quite broad, some of these things, what the structure looks like. Get a sense of what our program looks like, what the process looks like, and what the return on investment and the application process. So a lot of technical stuff. You'll get a sense of, I hope today you come away with, what does this really look like? How does it work? How do I get in? And all those kind of detailing things. Okay, that's what we hope to come up with today with. But I'd like to start with, what is the one skill, trait, or characteristic that you most admire in a leader? So this is a Slido. If you haven't used Slido, it's quite simple. If you got a phone, it's probably the easiest way to do it. Take a little picture of that QR code and just take a picture. It'll take you right to this question. You can type in an answer, 1 or 2 words. If you want to longer than that, fair enough. It'll just fill the screen. Or else you can just visit slido.com, type in that code 1690578 and answer that question. There's no wrong answer here. Well, we'll see. Maybe there is. Who's hard to say, but I doubt there is. The idea that what do you admire in leadership? And Liz will share these in about a few seconds. There it goes. You see the screen click there, and just we'll let them pop up, and I'll see what comes out of this. So, what do you admire in leaders? That one skill, trait, or characteristic that you would admire for you as a leader.
We can all see the results right now, right?
Yep.
I can see some. Yeah.
Great.
I'm seeing a bit of a trend forming in this one. So I always like this question because we don't ask it every day, but I'm quite struck by how people answer this question. And this question is a bit of a take on some work in leadership we probably touch on in this program, is that the Leadership Challenge by Kuzin and Posner. They've asked this question to tens of thousands of people around the world, and just to see what pops up. And so as you're starting to see, there are these things that are very much the human part of leadership, that humility, patience, being thoughtful, understanding, empathy, and all those kind of humbleness. I mean, that's a fantastic one that we don't necessarily, I think, assign to leadership sometimes, and we should. And other times it's the other things like courage, fantastic, openness, communication, and wonderful answers. And I think this is why when I speak about the intentionality of leadership, some of these things are, some of these things that people have either naturally or they've grown to build these characteristics or these character traits over life. Humility, patience. It's not a technical skill set. You don't take a course on humility. It's part of who you are. But to be able to understand humility in a leadership context, to understand it in an organizational context where sometimes it is about courage. How do you balance courage and humility and patience? And that's the tensions of leadership. So I love these kind of answers because they speak to the human part of being a leader. There's also the technical part of being a leader. How do you deal with boards and how do you deal with staffing? How do you do finances? We'll touch on some of those things. And how do you bring it all together? So wonderful stuff. I maybe turn it over to Leslie to walk through how we will do these things and so many, many more.
Thank you. I love that courage is up there as one of the big ones because that's a really important one in my mind. And as I said, having this cohort model, I think has really helped in my own personal development to have the courage to sometimes do the things that are really difficult as a leader, because I had a group of people to bounce things off of and get their feedback and to prop me up when things didn't go quite as planned. Anyways, I'm just going to go over kind of the framework that we're using and give you a bit more information. I don't know if you've had a chance to have a look at the website, but a lot of this information is on the website as well. So our intent is to have 6 full days of learning. So when you commit to the program, you commit to those 6 full days. And it's really important, and something to think about is whether or not you can commit to the 6 days. And then there's a final follow-up session. And we will have those sessions off-site so that you get a chance to get out of your work environment and to really take some time to reflect and think about where you are in your own personal leadership development. The other thing that's different about this approach that we're taking is it is a responsive content. It is not a pre-packaged curriculum. We do have some thoughts on kind of a framework and agenda, but it will be tailored to the individuals who are participating. So if something has come up and we need to spend time on it, we will be flexible to do that. So it's not a canned, pre-designed curriculum. As a facilitator, our role is to identify what the group needs and will be of most value to them, and then to help facilitate that process. And as I mentioned, the cohort model. So it's a community of your own peers that you will spend considerable time with and learn to trust and grow together. And as I said, these relationships often go beyond the experience of just the 6 days. And we will be doing some work to make sure that that happens for you as well. So who are we targeting here? Mid to senior level leadership. So I think it's important that you are in a position where you have some decision-making authority. You will need the support of your supervisor or board if that's who you report to. As already mentioned, you have to be able to attend all the sessions. It's really important, this commitment, because you are committing to each other. And one of the things that we talk a lot about is the wisdom in the group. And so it is learning from each other and learning together. So this attitude of collaboration and openness is critical. So we're not there as the experts. Nobody's the expert. We're all in this together, because the leadership journey, in my opinion, never really ends in terms of your own learning. But full participation is really important. So I know we've had a question about whether or not you can do this virtually, and unfortunately, we're not able to accommodate that at this time. It's really important that people are in person for these events. Okay, so let's talk about kind of the framework that we're using. We're talking about 3 domains here. So self, organization, and community. And I'll go through the 6 days here in a second, but that's kind of the framework that we're using. Now we recognize that these aren't independent, they're interdependent. But we will be kind of using this as a way to walk through because we feel that these are the 3 key areas. And, starting with self, because our belief is, you have to be able to lead yourself in order to be able to lead others, right? And so getting a good understanding of your strengths and weaknesses that you possess in leadership. So if we go to the modules, we'll walk you through kind of this is the high level. As I said, it's not a pre-developed curriculum, but the high level kind of areas that we're going to touch on. So the first day or module is, really kind of solidifying as a group, as a cohort, getting to know each other, and then starting this kind of personal reflection journey. So really looking at your own leadership skills, where you're at, what you think your weaknesses are, where you want to develop, those kinds of things. So the first session is really about building that trust, the commitment to your peers, exploring some of the concepts around leadership, and also starting on a personal leadership development plan. So using a process to intentionally, as Mike said, intentionally look at what do I need and want to develop as a leader, so that at the end of this program that you will come out with what path you were on and how you accomplished it. The second session is really focusing on yourself as a leader. And, again, the importance of that, of really getting a good understanding. There will be some kind of self-assessment. We haven't quite landed on which one to use yet. But, so you get more familiar with your leadership attributes, your style, your approach, and some of the underlying values that you bring to leadership. And this will help you as we move into the next modules, which the next one is really about leading within the organization. So it might be a team, it might be a department, you might be responsible for the entire organization. But leadership is a team practice, right? It's not just about leading yourself, it's about leading others as well. So it's about learning how to leverage your strengths, how to be more impactful as a leader, how to unpack the power that exists within leadership and being really aware of that. And about culture and what kind of culture you want to create and have sustained within your organization. So, the third module will be focusing on that. The fourth module is a little bit broader. So, beyond just the team, but kind of looking at the organization as a whole. How do we create sustainable and resilient organizations? And what's your role as a leader in that? So we'll be touching on some of the topics, such as things like, sustainability planning or strategic planning. But all of this is about you reflecting on where you are within your organization and in your own leadership journey. So, you will take bits and pieces that are important to you and use that as you work through this. And then the last two sessions, the fifth one is about the bigger picture, right? And so we believe strongly that it's really important to also look at leadership in the broader community, either within the nonprofit sector or even beyond into just, your whole community. Because in order to have really significant impact, things like public policy or influencing funding, we want to look beyond just our own organizations. So, thinking about systems thinking and how do you engage in that, government relations, those are some of the topics that we probably will be touching on. And then the module 6, which is the sixth of the 6 here, but we do have a follow-up session I'll get to in a second. But the last session together in this 6 days is really about how do we sustain this, like taking everything that we've learned and how do we carry it forward. We don't want to have, we don't want to be one of those groups where, someone goes to a workshop and then comes back and just does exactly what they were doing before. So there's going to be some peer accountability in this. You've got your leadership development path that you've created. And so it's about pulling it all together. And then there will be a follow-up session, probably several months after that, again, as a full day reconvening as a cohort and touching base, okay, so, this is what we committed to working on individually. Where are you at with it? How are each of you doing? And again, just trying to maintain that cohort, those relationships within the cohort. But I just wanted to highlight, as I started with, this is not prepackaged curriculum. And so as a group, if something comes up that's really important or it's identified ahead of the session, we will absolutely be flexible in looking at how do we accommodate the needs of the people. So some things to think about. As an individual, what's your return on investment? Because this is an investment. So hopefully you would be embodying your strength as a leader, inspiring others towards, a shared vision, a mission, those kinds of things, innovative, collaborative practice. And this is real-time learning. So part of it is you're reflecting on what are you personally, experiencing right now in your work situation? What are your challenges? What do you need to deal with? And coming up with some strategies. And then, next time we get together, we want to hear, how did it go? So applying new strategies that you'll learn from each other, building, of course, lasting relationships with your peers that hopefully will carry on for years to come. And then this personal leadership plan that you will be developing. And then we'll just look for your organization. What's the benefits to your organization? Well, hopefully you will come out as a stronger leader, one who can inspire others, who will be more aware of the culture that they want to create within the organization and be able to support that, to nurture impactful teams, and navigate change. Because if there's anything we know, it's that things are going to change. And then creating stronger relationships with external stakeholders. So those are some of the key things I think that will benefit the organization from having someone participate. So I'm going to turn it over to Sandeep now, and she's going to walk you through some of the administrative pieces.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sandeep. I am the Coordinator of Leadership Development here at IntegralOrg. I will be providing an overview of your investment and the application process so you know what to expect. I'll start off by acknowledging that Elevated Leadership is subsidized by a very generous funder who is supporting half of the overall initiative. This has allowed us to offer a more accessible price to you all. Your investment for Elevated Leadership is $2,995. This learning opportunity is eligible for the Canada-Alberta Job Grant, which, if approved, will subsidize the cost, 2/3 of the cost, bringing your final investment to just under $1,000. Okay, so the first step is applying to Elevated Leadership. The second step is applying to the Canada-Alberta Job Grant for those of you who are looking for the subsidy. And the third step is moving into the reimbursement process. So applications for Elevated Leadership have been open since June of this year and will remain open until the end of September. And you're welcome to apply at any time. However, those of you interested in the Canada-Alberta Job Grant, there are these 3 parts of the application process, and each is accompanied with important dates to ensure a smooth process. So we will walk through that timeline now, and I will highlight some of those dates. Okay. So as mentioned, the first step is applying to Elevated Leadership. You can access the application form on our website at www.integralorg.ca/leadership. According to this timeline, you want to submit your application to Elevated Leadership by August 16th, which is in 2 weeks from now. Once you've completed the application form, you will receive an email confirming your submission. We will be reviewing applications on an ongoing basis and connect with you to set up a time to speak with Mike and Leslie about if Elevated Leadership is right for you. This will take place during the second half of August. Based on that conversation, an agreement letter will be offered to you in the first week of September. However, you do not have to pay for the program until you have been approved for the job grant. Regarding the Canada-Alberta Job Grant, you will notice an arrow at the bottom of the screen here. We recommend that once you've applied to Elevated Leadership, that you begin the job grant process. At this stage, the only document that you require for the job grant is the Elevated Leadership outline, which is available for download on our website. You will also receive a copy via email once you have applied to Elevated Leadership. So for those of you who have applied, I've been in touch with a few of you. If you have not received an outline, you will be receiving an email at the end of this session so you can begin that job grant process. Okay. So I will now talk about the Canada-Alberta Job Grant. Please note that there is a detailed Canada-Alberta Job Grant applicant guide, which you're encouraged to read through. We are not the representatives of this grant, so it's important that you capture details directly from their guide. This overview will provide you a general sense of the application process so you know what to expect. According to this timeline, you will now have agreed to participate in Elevated Leadership and started your Canada-Alberta Job Grant application. The job grant has a 30-day turnaround time, so we suggest that you aim to have your application in before, but no later than September 20th. That means you'll have an answer by October 20th, and once you've received approval, full payment is due to IntegralOrg by October 27th. The indicated dates will ensure that you have grant approval and payment completed prior to the start of Elevated Leadership on November 1st. So the Canada-Alberta Job Grant highlights the following key things to keep in mind as you move through the process. The job grant must be signed and submitted by your employer. Once your employer submits the application on your behalf, you will receive an email to consent to the application. You must provide consent for the application to move forward. So even though your employer is the one submitting the application, please keep an eye out for your emails, because you will have to consent to the application in order for it to move forward. The other thing to keep in mind is to use identifiable email addresses in the application. So this means that your name must be in the handle. Otherwise, applications may be delayed or rejected. So in order to avoid that, please use an email address with your name in it. A work email is totally fine. Okay. All right. So once you've completed payment to IntegralOrg, the next step is the reimbursement process. This process can seem complex, so we have created a handout that will summarize the application process and highlight important dates. You will receive a copy of this information after this session. So as a quick overview, the Canada-Alberta Job Grant has a reimbursement processing time of 75 to 90 days. And there are two options for reimbursement. The first option is receiving a single reimbursement after you've completed all modules. Elevated Leadership concludes on March 13th, and the job grant states that you must submit a completion form and proof of payment within 30 days of that date. So according to the processing time, you should receive a payment between May and June of 2024. The second option is applying for interim reimbursement. This means that you will receive two payments. The interim reimbursement breaks payments into 2 fiscal years, which may be relevant for some folks. Once you've completed full payment to IntegralOrg, you will have to contact the Canada-Alberta Job Grant via phone or email to request interim reimbursement. Once you do that, they'll open this option up within their portal so that you can begin that process. So if you are opting for interim reimbursement, please be mindful of the processing time, as only one request can be active at one time. If you submit a request for interim reimbursement before the end of November, it will be processed and paid by February. This means you will be ready to begin your final reimbursement process in March when modules conclude. According to the timeline, you'll receive a final payment by June of 2024. Submitting an interim reimbursement after November may delay your final payment because the first reimbursement process may not be fully completed yet. So in order to avoid this, please ensure you submit a request for interim reimbursement as soon as possible after you've paid IntegralOrg and prior to the end of November. Like I said, this can seem a bit complex, so we have created a document that summarizes this process and highlights important dates for you to reference, and it will be emailed to you after this session. Okay. So we will move into a question period. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat now, and we will do our best to address them. If you have any specific questions or require more detail, please feel free to connect with us at any time. We're always open to hopping on a phone call or meeting with you in person. In fact, we welcome the opportunity, so please don't hesitate to reach us.
Great. Thanks, Sandeep. Yeah, so we had a couple of questions from registration. I'll pose this one to Mike. One question was, how are participants selected?
Just alphabetically, whoever gets in
Nice.
first, it just makes it easier for us. Just boom, done. That's a great question, and kind of, we're trying to find people who sort of fit the criteria. Are you at a stage in your career that you do have You don't have to be the named leader, but so do you fit kind of the basic criteria we've got in place? We're looking for fit in this thing. How do you fit in a peer group or learning experience? And that can happen a whole bunch of different ways. I think if there's things like, availability and not being able to attend all meetings, that probably puts you much, much lower on the list and maybe not on the list at all. So, I think the selection process is pretty straightforward. We don't have a grid. It's not like we're assigning you marks or anything like that. It is, who comes with an honest desire to learn, to listen, to grow, to engage others in their journey, to both bring something to the mix and take something from it. And that's hard to assess. I mean, I'll be honest, that's not an easy assessment to make. So we do have some bents that way, where we're part of the funding for this is looking for folks who work with vulnerable youth or youth in the employment space. There's some bit of a weighting that way, but not end of the world. It's not the main criteria, but it's certainly a consideration for us as well.
Great. And second question from the registration, and then I'll address the one in the chat. To Leslie, are there any projects, readings, or homework to be done between sessions?
Yeah, another great question. So we recognize that everybody is extremely busy, and this is a big time commitment. What we do ask is when you're in the group session for those 6 days and then the 7th follow-up, that we have your full attention. We want you to be present. We want you to be engaged. We want you to be part of it. So recognizing that, we really do try to keep anything outside of those days to a bit of a minimum. There may be occasionally readings. What you probably will be most, and I don't really consider this homework, but asked to connect with one of your or a couple of your cohort peers. Just over coffee for a chat about how things are going, or maybe it's around a specific topic. That's probably going to be what the homework looks like for the most part. A bit of self-reflection, but it's certainly, there's no papers or major projects or anything like that, because we do recognize that you are already making a significant time commitment. And we respect that you also have very important, busy jobs to go back to.
Wonderful. Okay. So in the chat, where do the meetings take place? Should I put that to Leslie again, or? Yeah.
Sandeep would be a good person to take that one.
All right, Sandeep, where are all these meetings happening?
Sure. So the meetings are taking place in person in Calgary. There's 2 separate locations that we've identified for each of the modules. So the entirety of the experience will be between the 2 sites, which are very accessible within Calgary.
Mm-hmm.
And I can make it who they are. So they are the Ralph Klein Center, which is in Southeast Calgary, a bit of a, it's in Calgary, but it's on the edge, and it feels like a retreat, feels like the outdoors. And at C Space, which is an old school here, kind of central Calgary too. So equally split between and picked to fit this style of learning. So you're not in a hotel basement or something like that. We've been pretty intentional about this way we use space in this place. Yeah.
Nice. And I think kind of related to that question, Mike, one person said that they may need to travel, I'm guessing, for this program. And so does that make them not an ideal candidate, or how does that play into selection where people are based?
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. I mean, as Leslie, I think, has pointed out really well, is that this is a cohort model, and it's your learning, but it's the shared leadership part. I mean, that's one of my favorite values. Leadership is my success depends on your success, and to be able to do that, you need to be there. Things are going to happen. I mean, we don't know what. I can't plan my life 6 days in advance. Some days, not even 6 months in advance. So. I mean, if you know that there's certain dates, you'll get the PowerPoint, so I know the dates will be there. If you can block them off, even if you haven't applied yet, to mitigate that. If things come up, then we'll deal with that. But up front, you need to have that understanding. I believe that I can commit to this, and that's that. It may just be that you've got to balance some things and say, I can't make it happen this round. It is our intent to keep going with this. But yeah, if you know you're not going to be there, that's tougher for us. Be honest as you can in your application, saying, I've got one date that's a bit iffy. Let us know. And it's better that we know now. We can work with you and see what happens as we work through this stuff.
Perfect. Yeah. I suppose, yeah, one person asked to repeat the dates. I will just point people to the website page It has all the dates there, but generally, what was the thinking behind the spacing between the dates? Mike?
Just, you want to, there's a bit of a balancing momentum and letting things reflect. There's a bit of balancing just the reality of a calendar and with other things that people have. So we got Christmas in the middle there, but you wanted to start, and we start with a couple sessions before Christmas, and you keep some momentum going up and a bit of sort of percolating over the Christmas break and then moving forward a little more regularly. So you want to keep it that you're not, we were asked a whole bunch of different models. Do you do week away? Do we go to town? Things like that. And you're trying to balance accessibility with recognizing that, as Leslie said, people have busy jobs. And so I think we've got not a bad balance to keep the energy going, to keep you focused, to make it contained within I think, a manageable piece of time. At the same time, recognize you got to work and you want to let things kind of grow as you go through each session.
Awesome. Yep. So yeah, as Mike stated, there's a couple in November, one mid-December, and then kind of one every month until the end, which is March 13th. So I hope that answers any questions. If folks have any other follow-up questions, where you want to unmute and ask it that way, that's totally okay for today. If not, I wonder if Mike or Leslie, do you guys have any anticipatory answers to any other common questions that have come up related to this program? Elevated leadership.
Or answers to questions we haven't heard. Is that your question, really?
Yeah, because I feel like you guys have had some, talked to a bunch of different people. I don't know.
Yeah, it can be overwhelming, right? I mean, I did my master's in leadership, and the first few days you're just like, holy smokes, why am I here? Like, why I don't fit in this group? This is, everybody's got more to add than I. And
Imposter syndrome.
That is, that's real. And they were right. I should have been there. No, they're wrong. But you do get that. No matter where you are, we're going to come in, and I could go back and do a master's. I could do this program we're doing here, and I could go back and do my master's again right now in that cohort model to learn again. And you're never done. And so that fear of, is this for me? Err on the side of yes, it is for you. I mean, it is. There is something we can all learn, and you have something to give as well. So the logistics, it sounds complicated. It's not. That's just the dealing with government kind of stuff. There are pieces. It all works in the end. So don't let the fear of not being something to offer or to gain, and the process itself, those are all, I think, well manageable. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I guess the other question that has come up is if there will be a recording or an option to attend virtually. Unfortunately, not at this time due to the nature of the learning and the group activity and involvement. That's just not a possibility. But yeah, just like Mike said, with the application process, with any questions about the opportunity, I am more than happy to receive any questions via email or by sending it here to leadership@integralorg.ca or giving me a call at 587-323-4529. Especially with the application process, do not let that deter you. I will be there to answer any questions and support you along the way.
There is a question here about, is this the first time this course has been offered? This is the first time the course has been offered in this framework through IntegralOrg. There have been historically a few other leadership development programs. There currently is nothing like this happening in our sector in, I think I could say, Alberta. Did an environmental scan. And so, yes, there have been some similar programs in the past that have been very successful. And then there's been kind of a drought, to be honest, for a number of years now. And so when we looked at what's happening out there, this was really identified as a key gap. I think everyone's probably aware that there's just a shortage of leadership in our sector. There's a lot of long-term leaders who are retiring or looking towards retirement. There's a number of, brilliant second-in-command folks who are hesitant to step into the most senior position. And so we really see that this is a way to support people in wherever they are in their leadership path, but to support people going forward. Because we all know that organizations cannot provide impactful and excellent service without strong leadership. And we're all trying to make a difference here. So really think it's important to invest in leadership.
Thank you for addressing that, Leslie. I'll just hand it over to Sandeep then to close it off. What can folks expect to receive after this session?
Yes. So after today's session, you will receive a copy of the timeline that we went through. You'll receive an outline of elevated leadership, as well as a recording and the recording of this session, this information session, and the slide deck. So you can always reference back to any part of today's conversation. And like I said, I am more than happy to receive any questions about elevated leadership or the application process at the details on the screen here. Give us a call, come in to meet with us. We are very excited about this opportunity and so excited to speak with each of you about it as well. I will tag it back to Mike.
Well, I just want to wrap us up and say thank you. And thank you for joining. Thanks for the time of your lunch hour and for being with us. I hope it is the start of a journey. I really do, that we do get to spend time with you in this way or with others. You know, we didn't really follow it today. We would intentionally crafted this in our minds as not a program. We use the word program about a dozen times today, I noticed, but we're trying not to use it because it's not about a program. It is about a journey. It's about a practice. And so whether this is the time for you or this is the journey for you, that's okay. My encouragement is you think seriously about who you are as leadership in whatever way you define that, in your own role, in your own organization, in your own life, and to think about what do you need to do to advance that? What makes you a deeper, richer, more capable, or a competent leader? And there may be things to work on that are technical or reflective or just whatever it might be. And to take that from this and to say, if that's the seed that gets planted here, then that's time well spent for us, I think. So again, thank you for joining us. Again, as Sandeep said, that if you want to just have a coffee or have a call or one-on-one questions, it's all about relationship. You don't do peer stuff without it knowing people. So that's what we're here for. And please do let us know. And we'll set you free and go enjoy your afternoon. Take care, folks.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.